where you want to see one speak at someone's memorial service. But Justice Clarence Thomas telling those who are gathered at Barbara Olson's memorial service what she meant in his life and his wife's life, and what the joint friendship of Barbara Olson and Ted Olson meant to him. Once again, you were looking at pictures from the Cathedral of St. Thomas More in Arlington, Virginia, where Father Franklin Martin McAfee is presiding over Barbara Olson's memorial service. She, of course, was in that plane that crashed into the Pentagon. She was on her way from Dulles Airport to Los Angeles, actually phoned her husband, described the hijacking as it was going down, in fact got 2 phone calls off, thus providing investigators with valuable information about exactly what had gone wrong. We're going to take a very short break here and return with our coverage.
Ground Zero, no rest for the weary and little time to mourn. Round-the-clock search and rescue efforts go on as New York firefighters bid the first of many farewells to 3 of their own. And from the president, a promise of payback.
There's no question about it. This act will not stand. We will find those who did it. We will smoke them out of their holes. We will get them running, and we'll bring them to justice.
At the Pentagon, the U.S. military machine moves to respond to this national emergency. Outside, the grim job of finding the dead and assessing the damage wears on.
We do expect to be in this particular mode for approximately another 10 days as we move forward with the process of, as you might imagine, the very arduous task of removing bodies.
Hello now from Washington. I'm Judy Woodruff, along with my colleagues Paula Zahn in New York and Darren Kagan in Atlanta. Our coverage of America's new war continues. We turn first to Darren in Atlanta for the latest developments.
Judy, yet another part of the story is unfolding as now economic repercussions from Tuesday's terrorist attacks are already being felt. Continental Airlines announcing it is laying off 12,000 employees. The carrier cites an unexpected drop in air travel following the Tuesday terrorist attacks. Also, smoke still rising from Ground Zero. That's where the World Trade Center's Twin Towers once stood. A mountain of metal, concrete, and debris remains. Beneath that, countless victims. A live picture there of that scene for you now. Firefighters, emergency crews, and volunteers still swarming all over Lower Manhattan. New York, meanwhile, is holding funerals today for the fire department's chaplain, chief, and deputy commissioner. 300 firefighters and 70 police officers and Port Authority officials are among the more than 4,700 people still listed as missing in New York. Meanwhile, in Boston, Logan International Airport has reopened. The first airplane took off this morning. In addition to complying with new FAA rules, Logan has posted state police at security checkpoints and law officers in the control tower. The 2 planes that flew into the World Trade Center towers 4 days ago, of course, originated in Boston. As for the investigation of Tuesday's terrorist attacks, 2 men are being taken to New York for questioning. They were taken into custody in Texas on Wednesday. The pair had been traveling on an Amtrak train. They were carrying false identification and box cutters. A 3rd man, who's being described as a material witness, is under arrest in New York. Of course, as all this news has unfolded, people from all around New York and all around the country have wanted to do something just to be able to help. Many of those people have gone to Midtown Manhattan, to the Javits Center. We'll be checking with Bill Hemmer in just a moment. First, though, I want to bring in Paula from New York. Paula.
Darren, I don't know whether you could still hear it, but just about a minute ago you could hear church bells ringing, and I am told those are coming from St. Francis of Assisi, where New York City is honoring its chaplain of the New York City Fire Department, who lost his life while he was administering last rites to a fellow fireman. In attendance at that funeral, former President Bill Clinton, his wife Hillary Clinton, of course, the junior senator from New York, and Chelsea Clinton. We just learned this morning that Chelsea Clinton was in fact 12 blocks away from the World Trade Center during both attacks. There are some interesting facts to share with you now because this information has changed from early this morning. The New York Police Commissioner, Bernard Kerik, has held a news conference, and he is confirming so far that 92 bodies have been identified, 60 of them unidentified. The missing list has grown up to 4,972. He took no great pride in reporting this statistic. Already, there was one attempted burglary overnight at Brooks Brothers. One arrested for stealing a fireman's coat. There were reports of someone breaking into a jewelry shop, which was one of the buildings not too far from the World Trade Center complex. But perhaps the biggest news that the city wants to get out at this point is that they want to limit the number of volunteers showing up. You know, as a New Yorker, I have been amazed by the lines that have wrapped around hospitals in the area, people wanting to donate blood. There are hundreds of people who have been gathered at the Jacob Javits Center for the last 3 days wanting to volunteer. Some of those folks sitting there 3 days in a row and not called into active duty. But the city says it wants all of you to know it truly appreciates your help, but unfortunately, because it is so difficult to get into the debris area, I mean, almost every major southern artery is shut right now because they are serving, south of here, because they're serving as a staging area for the rescue and cleanup operations. So they would rather people stay home. What they really are looking for at this point is cash donations. They can't handle any more supplies. There's no place to store them. And Bill Hemmer has a very good idea of the level of support that continues. Is anybody taking this message from the police commissioner seriously right now?
Paula, to be quite frank with you, they don't care. They want to stay in line and put their name on a list somewhere and think possibly they could be called back tomorrow or later next week. Anything they can do to contribute. You mentioned hundreds of volunteers showing up here. I'd up that number quite safely to say thousands have showed up here thus far today, and they continue to come here. Again, we're on the west side of Manhattan at this point. But that word went out that you mentioned from the police commissioner in the past hour about they're okay right now when it comes to the number of volunteers. Let's get some reaction from those volunteers, many of whom have been in line for hours now. First of all, we have Lewis, right to left, Michelle, and Gregory, is it? Yes. Okay, first of all to Lewis, back over here. The fact that you will not be able to go, at least at this point, how does that make you feel?
I'm a little upset that I'm not going to be able to get there today, but if they need volunteers, I want to help. I want to do whatever I can.
What's the purpose for you staying here then?
Something, just an answer, a form, somewhere I could just put my name down, anything, so I could be called.
Michelle, what do you think? When you got the word, how did it feel?
Well, I feel that they should tell us what we can do. There must be something that we can do, whether it's picking up a broom, going down where it's dusty, and just picking up dust off the street. There's not just ground one that needs to be taken care of. There's a lot of other things. And if they just went out and told the volunteers, hey, go buy a broom and a couple of bags and start cleaning it up, anything at all.
Does it do your heart any good knowing that the city is saying we have enough people at this point?
Oh, absolutely. It does my heart good to see not just the city.
Sorry to cut you off here midstream, Bill Hemmer, but we need to go back to the St. Francis of Assisi, where Hillary Clinton is speaking in honor of Chaplain Michael Judge.
As you know so well, that it was a mission he'd been called to do. On Tuesday, when the worst of evil struck our city, I was heading toward my office at the Senate, and I heard first of the crash into the tower, and like so many people thought it must have been a terrible accident. And then shortly thereafter, the second. As I frantically began making phone calls, we were evacuated because of the third crash into the Pentagon. And I called the mayor and the governor and the president. And I think for so many people in those initial hours, it was unimaginable, except for those of you and your comrades who were there in the midst of it. And then I was called and told that Father Michael Judge had died doing what he was called to do. And all of a sudden, the enormity of the tragedy became very personal. It will take a very long time before any of us can even find the words to express what this cowardly, evil act meant and did to people we knew and loved, to our city and our country. But as a Christian, I think often of another terrible day, a Friday of despair, darkness, and death. A Friday that left behind so much pain and hopelessness. And yet, Sunday was coming, and Sunday did come. As we continue the work of rescue, recovery, rebuilding, reconstruction, we have to remember the spirit, the life, and the love that Father Mike left us, pulling us one to the other, giving us strength where it seems hard to imagine it could ever come again, and being resolute in our commitment to do everything we can to ensure that not one person who lost his or her life on our Tuesday of death and darkness will have died in vain. So thank you, Father Judge. Father, you gave us so many gifts when you were alive, gifts of laughter and love. And blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, and you came to us. And now you've gone ahead, but you will never be forgotten, and we are grateful for the blessings of your life. Thank you.
That, of course, is Senator Hillary Clinton eulogizing Chaplain Michael Judge, making multiple references to her faith, her Christian roots, basically saying that Chaplain Michael Judge, who died administering last rites to a fireman, had not died in vain, and certainly that other Americans who lost their lives had not died in vain. Right now, it is time to check in with Dr. Sanjay Gupta, who joins us from St. Vincent's Hospital. For those of you, before we get going with this, aren't familiar with the geography of New York, St. Vincent's was in fact one of the first hospitals that patients were first transported to after this horrendous tragedy. What are you finding there this morning, Doctor?
That's right, Paula. You know, it seems in some ways there's been a sense of normalcy returned to Greenwich Village, here where St. Vincent's Hospital is located. And just behind me, you can see an ambulance that has just taken off and dropped off another patient patient here to St. Vincent's Hospital. We've had a chance to walk around, talk to a lot of people. Despite the normalcy, you look around and you still see missing persons walls, Paula. People gathering up, coming to the walls, seeing if they can find somebody that they may have known, a neighbor, a friend, a relative even. People have been walking around. The efforts, the volunteer efforts have just been remarkable. I mean, people say, as you've said